The Brandon Peters Show may contain explicit language and detailed plot points. For more information on the show, stay tuned to the end of the episode. And now, here's Brandon.
Welcome back to the Brandon Peters Show as we close the week with a song. And of course, that song and music video are part of our
The Summer of 82 at 40
music video series. And returning to close out his run here, I have from the Sparkshooter, the Saturday Evening Post, the Graphic Policy, the Jack of all trades, the Satan Master himself, Troy Brownfield.
Greetings.
All right. So Abracadabra. It was the lead single from the Steve Miller Band's 12th album of the same name. It also featured the singles Cool Magic, Keeps Me Wondering Why, and Give It Up, which is like, kind of feels like the progression of watching a magic act with those titles.
The prestige.
Yes. Album reached number 3 on the Billboard 200, going platinum. It hit number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100, finishing as the 9th top song of the year, 44th for the decade, and 90th all time. Crazy. Not originally released as a single in the US, but it blew up all over the rest of the world. Steve Miller actually canceled shows to the US because they weren't playing it here, and went to the UK, and then they had to get him on back over here because, oh, guess what? It got released as a single. So, yeah. Troy, Abracadabra.
Steve Miller's an interesting cat. His family were friends with Les Paul, like guitar god.
Oh, wow.
Les Paul and designer Les Paul. And so he played for Les Paul when he was like 13 or so, played him some stuff, and Les Paul's like, yeah, you might have it. So he was like, kind of like that, where you're like, when you hear the talent in someone and you don't want to like oversell them or whatever. But pretty soon Steve Miller, like as a teenager, was playing with like actual blues legends. He was going to Chicago and was playing, and formed his band in 1966.
Oof.
Just to get Steve Miller Band dates back to 1966, which is kind of crazy. So they were a really long-term, well-established act. As you said,
the Beatles were still together.
Beatles were still together
for another 3 years or so. Yeah.
And so contemporaries of the Beatles. So Ed Miller in the 70s has a ton of hits that Fly Like an Eagle, Radar, Jungle Love. He's got like all these kinds of stuff that is staples of classic rock radio. Rockin' Me, Take the Money and Run, I mean, so he flirts with a little bit of quote unquote 80s sound on this, but the song is still extremely Steve Miller. It's just one of those artistic progression things where, if you listen to the Stones, there's a pocket of 60s stuff where it's like, okay, you kind of know which album maybe it's from, or you kind of know that like Paint It Black and Street Fighting Man and Sympathy for the Devil, they're like on a trajectory here,
right? And
then in the 70s they start doing a little bit more ballads, like they've got some different like funk influences, Shattered and whatever, She's So Cold. It's just, you feel the arcs of it. So this feels like a kind of a natural arc that Steve Miller's on here, although it doesn't sound like any of those other songs necessarily. It's him, and the magic theme, the way that he uses abracadabra in the hook. I mean, it's kind of shocking that this far into rock, no one had used abracadabra, I'm going to reach out and grab you.
Right, yeah.
Line beforehand, which I suppose is what separates the Rock and Roll Hall of Famers from the rest of the mere mortals, as they figure out how to make something simple into something, enduring. And, it's really kind of an interestingly arranged tune, both in, musically and lyrically, because there's parts of it that are real simple, like that kind of bass hook in the background, that dun 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 dun. Like as a bass player, you're like, oh man, I'm glad I got that part, because it's like it's like super easy. You can just get in the pocket. You don't have to, do a lot with it. Miller does his guitar, so it's pretty basic on the backside, but up front it's interesting. And before we get too much of the video, I gotta say, man, Joan Severance,
yeah, this is a big jump. Yeah, so she's the only female found in the video, where I was like, okay, guys, we can do this, but we only know like one hot girl, so let's bring her. That's all we got. But Joan Severance, See No Evil, Hear No Evil, Bird
Wise
on a
Guy.
Wire, No Holds Barred, yeah. Black Scorpion was you've at least, once you see the poster Black Scorpion, you're like, that movie. She's been in American Horror Story Asylum. She's in CSI Miami, One Tree Hill. She did a Tales from the Crypt. So LA Law. She was in the Scorpions video for Rhythm of Love too. But
yes,
she's very kind of a cult female icon, like there.
Yeah, I would go so far as to say that, she's the hot chick in Rhythm of Love, despite the fact that there's about 40 hot chicks in that video. There's one of her. But man, I love Wise Guy. Unabashedly love the TV show Wise Guy. She was in the second major arc as Susie Prophet, who was the sister of Kevin Spacey's Mel Prophet. Yeah, that was a tremendous villain. Holy shit, were they good? Like what a top flight. I mean, yes, Kevin Spacey but then
you can still appreciate the work. Like, we know who he is because of it, right?
Performance, man. I mean, you don't have Kaiser Soze and everything else without that run on Wise Guy. It's incredible, and she's amazing. Like she was the girl from Videos before that, and she is tremendous.
Like I said, we don't have the names of a lot of these on a previous one.
Yeah, never gets enough credit. So it's awesome that she's, you're like, wait a minute, that's Joan Severance. And at the time you wouldn't have known her. This was just a job for her. She's just a working actress and model, and they're like, you want to be in a Steve Miller Band video? It's like, yeah, sure.
Yeah. Previously, like there was one I believe before this video, we did the Go-Go's Vacation, and that had Cynthia Rhodes in it before Cynthia Rhodes, and Swayze's in there too. But yeah, Cynthia Rhodes, just like, whoa, wow, Cynthia Rhodes, before she got Staying Alive from that video. And then we had talked about Richard Marx in the previous episode. So there's this long-term wife, that now ex-wife, but
and she was the second female lead singer of Animotion as well, which is crazy. But then Steve Miller Band.
So this video, like, it's got a lot of magic stuff, but for me, like when I was watching it, it had the equivalent of, hey, I just got this new video editing software. Can you guys just come over and shoot some stuff so I can mess around with it? Yeah, like it's got some stuff on point with the lyrics, but lots random. But I just want to mess with my new software, guys. Can we shoot some stuff? Because it is old video tech that there's a fondness, nostalgia for it, but I'm sure it was like, ooh, cool back then. But now it's just, it became the public access, hit a couple buttons and you have the effect thing. But I'm sure people worked really hard back in '82.
Yeah, they had to cut the film by hand. There's no looping or anything like that. But one of the funny things you mentioned is, that effect that's frequently used in '80s videos of like the mask with this, superimposed image that like the mask is something else. But they use the black, like the vaguely S&M black Road Warrior masks.
Oh yeah.
In this video that
Yes.
also recur in Self-Control by Laura Branigan. There's
Right.
like a whole like underclass of videos that use those fucking
It's
masks.
the one part of this video that doesn't connect to anything else. You're like,
No.
that was a choice. All right.
Yeah, it's like they just had them laying around.
Yeah.
It's like there's somebody, because there are a couple of videos that were deliberately made to look like the Road Warrior as well, and not We Don't Need Another Hero, which was a deliberate Road Warrior video.
Right.
But those masks pop up in a few videos here and there over the years. They're in somebody's box of props.
Yeah.
Like, might as well use the masks. But there's a legit guy in a tux doing magic tricks.
Yeah.
Like tossing the flames and doing the stuff with the cards and everything.
Yeah. And Steve Miller, he wasn't available to shoot this, so his stuff is via a series of photos and things like that, because he was in Europe, of course, because they loved this song in Europe.
Yeah.
For
the go ahead, Brent.
No, I would say it's directed by Peter Kahn, who did George Clinton's Atomic Dog and Blame It on the Boogie for the Jacksons. He did the special effects for TLC's Waterfalls and video sequences seen in the movie RoboCop. But our star here, though, is Brian Greenberg, who shot this. So this guy's career, he was the assistant second unit camera on Paul Schrader's Hardcore.
Holy shit.
That's
the masks.
That's right. Yes. You know what? Yes. We just figured that out. He directed Little Red Corvette for Prince. He operated camera on Thriller and Moonwalker. And he was the he's visual effects supervisor on Last Man on Earth, the show with Will Forte, Glow, and Orange Is the New Black. And then he was the DP on Atomic Dog, so he shot with this director before, and the director of photography on Farrah Fawcett, All of Me for Playboy.
Wow.
So yeah, this guy's got no consistency in his work, but I love it. Like he's got some like, oh, cool. Like
that sounds fun. I'll do that. That's it's
right.
Guided aesthetic.
I love seeing these like dives I do on these people that I could find that worked on videos. And I'm like, oh wow, he was on the set for this. Cool, yeah.
I was going to tell a Steve Miller Band anecdote for younger viewers that may not be aware of Steve Miller. You might have heard of him just a few years ago when they got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and he was very displeased with the process. Turns out that that you have to pay the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for your seats and stuff. And the seats are thousands of dollars. So if you wanted his longtime band members with him, they had to shell out like $10,000. And then if you wanted kids and grandkids, it was all this money. And he was kind of incensed by that. And he also wanted Elton John, who was a longtime friend of his, to induct him. And instead, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, in some misguided bid to draw 10,000 extra viewers, decided to have the Black Keys induct him. And they were, because they were fans. But he had no idea who they were, which is kind of funny because that's not where he comes from. That's not his generation.
Right.
And was kind of, mind boggled that so like they didn't get along with him. He didn't get along with them. But then after the induction, he went to the press room and he just ripped the whole process and everything. And it's awesome. It's really kind of awesome. But it was the redemption arc for me and Steve Miller, because I got to tell you the other.
Okay.
My freshman year in college, I had a class with a girl I'd gone to high school with, who I knew but didn't know well. She'd been a cheerleader and good looking, popular and everything. First day of this class we had, she sat next to me because we knew each other and everything. And so we went on like a pseudo lunch date one time. We were talking about music, and I said that I felt like she asked me who I thought was overrated. I said, I think the most overrated popular musician of all time is Steve Miller. And she said, without missing a beat, in all honesty, she's like, Steve Miller's my favorite.
Of course. Of course.
At that point, it's like I kind of want to just say, hey, you know what? I'm just gonna shake your hand right now because that's awesome. I got to leave with this story. But so it was funny as shit.
Oh gosh.
But so yeah, that's one of my pervasive memories of Steve Miller that I've had my entire life.
Oh, that's perfect.
Well, I also had my other Steve Miller memory. Third anecdote. When they were planning the prom for my senior year of high school, I was like on student senate, and so the idea of using Jungle Love as the theme came up, but all of the people enslaved to classic rock wanted the actual Jungle Love song played to be Steve Miller's Jungle Love, and I'm like, more stay on the time,
yeah. Oh.
And so they voted that it would be the Steve Miller band version of Jungle Love, but the punchline is that the DJ turned out to be a friend of mine, so we played the other one anyway. So,
there you go. There you go.
Yeah, but yeah, man, it's the Steve Miller thing is like, there is not a radio station in America that plays album-oriented rock that has not played Steve Miller today.
Oh yeah.
It's like, no matter where you are, what day of the year it is, Steve Miller's getting played somewhere on some rock radio station.
You could probably, like, within your drive home, find it on some station. Yeah.
I heard Rockin' Me like 2 days ago. Just turn on the radio. It's like, hey, Rockin' Me. I'm like, all right.
Yep.
Like goddamn Brandon making me listen to Abracadabra.
There you go. Reach out and grab you.
For some reason, Abracadabra to me is also contextualized a little differently. I mean, it is kind of his last major hit, but it sits for me as an 80s song.
Yeah.
In as much as the 80s have no real genre, it sits to me more like an 80s song than anything in the rest of kind of his catalog.
Right. And I mean, the video that goes with it is very an only in the 80s type video, as well as like still like in that we're still figuring out this whole music video thing. Like, we have no idea what we're doing, but hopefully you were entertained for 4 minutes.
Well, what's funny about that is, I mean, this is 82, and Billie Jean is a very low tech video. If you look at the arc of Michael Jackson's Thriller videos, which he didn't even make a video for every single.
Nope. PYT doesn't have a video. I don't think.
If you look, if you look at the arc of Human Nature doesn't have one, does it? Or does it? I can't remember.
No, it's just, I think, Beat It, Thriller, and Billie Jean.
Yeah. So you have Billie Jean, and then Beat It, and then Thriller, and the production value escalates with each one. But Billie Jean is not that far above the Abracadabra production value. I mean,
well, look at the videos for Off the Wall too, like Rock With You. Yeah.
Rock With You looks like he's legit at a karaoke bar. I mean,
no, that's what it is. Yeah, he's got the green screen. Like, yeah, it is 100% karaoke.
That's Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, right? The same thing. They've got the but and it's funny too, because that's probably baffling to some people, the idea that not every single got a video.
There are radio singles that never, or promotional singles too, that aren't even, well, they're not even singles, they're promotional songs, something like that doesn't get a thing. Beat It and Billie Jean were the only videos from Thriller. But it had like it had 7 singles, because PYT, Human Nature, Wanna Be Starting Something, and Girl Is Mine. Girl Is Mine was released as a single before Billie Jean. Shit. That was the lead single from Thriller.
That is definitely memory trickery. Because I heard that whole album so many times, but my impression, until we first started talking about this like a year ago or something, was the fact that it had the singles in a completely different order. Because you heard Thriller so much that you heard all the songs all at the same time, and you kind of lost the thread of when they came out. It wasn't like, freaking Nevermind, where it's like very definitely Smells Like Teen Spirit was the first single from Nevermind.
Right.
But or it landed in a completely different way. And similarly to when Purple Rain came out, contiguous with the film, like you kind of heard everything.
Yeah.
But there was an actual release order for the stuff that you've probably forgotten what the release order
right
is, because you're growing up at the time. It's like it all kind of runs together, because you'd listen to those albums and the all killer no filler thing was definitely in play on a number of the big albums of that era. Like they were not leaving a whole lot on the table.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's you think of those albums that have like half or more of like a get to the radio. It's crazy. Like they can keep trucking them out, and the album keeps out. Doesn't everybody have this already?
Yeah.
I didn't like the first 6 songs, but that 7th one made me want to buy the rest of those. Okay.
Yeah. Like She's So Unusual by Cyndi Lauper and Like a Virgin by Madonna each had 5 or 6.
Yeah, half those albums. Yeah, Jagged Little Pill by Alanis, but with half of that singles.
Born in the USA.
Yeah.
He's got Dance in the Dark, Glory
and
Days,
that had
I'm
videos for almost everything.
Yeah, it's an incredible number of stuff. Well, the legend. I mean, it's not really legend. It's true. When Def Leppard entered the studio to make Hysteria, and Mutt Lange came in. Mutt Lange had produced Pyromania, and they used to work with him. And he came in and he's like, "We're gonna make a heavy metal thriller." And they're like, "What?" He's like, "We're gonna have 7 hit singles on this album." And they're like, "You're fucking crazy." and they did. They had 7 singles off of that album, and it sold bazillions.
Right.
Yeah, but that stuff, it's weird to think of an album now making that many impressions. Like they're hits because they drop them digitally. So like Drake drops a new album, and then like all 12 songs chart because of the way that the digital is configured. But it's not the same thing.
Right.
So it is kind of tied to the video release. So like, not the most recent album, but the album before, The Weeknd does Blinding Lights and drops the Blinding Lights video, and that becomes like ostensibly the lead single, even though they're all out at the same time.
Right. Yeah, it's really weird how they in the streaming era how they pull that off, and calculate. I'm not too nowadays into it. I remember getting CDs and they come out and be like, I wonder what they're gonna make videos for all these next. Like they'd put the sticker on and be like featuring this, and this, but that wouldn't guarantee that and that were singles. Like it was just like, we're looking at that right now, but it might not be at the end of the day.
That would you very rarely have the effect now of DJs don't get to pick the songs that they play. And you don't have songs that develop in an area. Like I think it was Pittsburgh maybe, that Workin' Man by Rush broke out as a single on the Pittsburgh radio station. And they would used to physically report the songs that you're playing. You write them in the little sound scan book, or they not sound scan, but Arbitron. You'd write them in the Arbitron book. It would go back and they'd be like, "Oh man, Pittsburgh played Workin' Man by Rush like all these times. I wonder if Cleveland will also like Workin' Man because they're a working town. Let's add it to these radio stations." And it would like organically take many months. So if you guys in the audience who don't recall this stuff, or weren't born yet, you go look at some of these 80s charts and everything. The build of these songs frequently took months to get to it. You had a couple of instances in the late 70s where an album would debut at number 1, like Stevie Wonder in the middle of his Magic 5. He had albums debut at number 1 because the expectation was this is going to be awesome, just like the other stuff. Or Elton John would debut at number 1 with an album. Songs debuting at number 1 was not a regular thing. It happened, but it wasn't regular. What would happen much more likely is that the song would come out and it would build up over the whole summer or whatever, and then maybe it would hit number 1, or else it might go to number 1 in like 4 weeks and stay there for like 2 months,
and then drop like a rock with like people.
There are chart records for biggest drops, and some of them are insane. Just the amount of time like, we're out.
Yep. Hit number. Yeah. Well, we had at the beginning of the series, there was Vangelis, the theme from Chariots of Fire, hit number
Right.
1, which we're talking about. Like, when does pieces of score hit pop radio and charted and hit number 1? But that one starts number 1 and it's out of the 10 by like another couple weeks. Like 2 weeks later, it's gone.
I would love to see some kind of stat on, because that was still like we're in that transition from that AM gold era to FM stuff, and I wonder how much of the easy listening stations actually had an impact on Vangelis getting to.
Right.
It is weird. What an aberration.
Yeah.
Just like other crazy shit, like the theme from Hill Street Blues being a hit single.
Yeah. Right. It's. I mean,
Nothing.
this isn't like "I'll Be There for You" from Friends in the '90s, which is just a pop song that they used for a show charting
by a band that had pop hits like just a couple years before.
Right.
You know,
while we're at Abracadabra, I've got a weird site. So Sugar Ray, they had a pretty solid cover of this on 1459, and when I bought 1459 that came out, I was pretty severely disappointed with the album, but I liked the Abracadabra cover. I grew into it because Sugar Ray changed their sound for that album completely. They went all in on, okay, people liked Fly, we need to make Fly songs. I saw they had the previous album was Floored, and
was that the one with Mean Machine on it, or was that too?
that was Lemonade and Brownies.
Okay.
So I Fly was around. I didn't really care for that song or whatever. It's catchy, whatever. And I saw the album cover at the store, and I'm like, I took a chance. I'm like, I was a metalhead, just like listening to like anything heavy, and I took a chance. I picked it up. I'm like, I bet they don't sound like that. I bet that's like their one thing. And holy shit, it was heavy metal, like punk stuff. I love that. I converted all my friends. We bought Lemonade, went back to Lemonade and Brownies. It was like punk rock city. We were like, this band's really cool. Then they was it Sunday Morning? Was that the first?
Yeah.
Where like they're doing it again. Or every morning.
Every morning.
Like they're doing it again. They're doing it again. And we got it. It was like Abracadabra was the heaviest song on the thing. And I was like,
yeah.
And I going back, I'm like, I kind of like what they added hip hop to their sort of like they became their own thing again. Like they found their own sound that wasn't really present in a lot of bands there, and managed to run with it and did well with that. But I was, as a guy who was into heavy shit and liking that, they let me down right there at the time.
Yeah.
But they did have a sweet cover of Abracadabra.
I think one thing that's kind of weirdly interesting is, of the 80s bands that stuck around, they have a evolution. They have an evolutionary arc that they kind of follow, but they weren't so dramatically different album to album that they became off-putting. And I think that there were some other bands that went so crazily different from one to another that it sometimes lost people.
Yeah.
Or there's also this added side effect that there was just so much new stuff all the time. There's a truly staggering amount of music that's released in the 80s.
Yeah.
Like week to week. There's 1987. I always talk about 1987 as one of the greatest album years of all time. Go through and look at the stuff that's coming out week after week after week, and it is astounding. So, the stranglehold that some of these songs and some of these bands have for, weeks at a time starts to get much shorter because it's just so fiercely competitive.
Yeah.
And a lot of people making really good music, and some of it's weird in context to look back and see some of the music that was happening at the same time. Like
it's all happening at once.
Document by REM and Appetite for Destruction by Guns N' Roses. That's the same year, man.
Yeah.
That's
I'm gonna last, and then I'm gonna destroy the industry by getting a huge contract we can't live up to.
That's right.
We're gonna spend that whole time working on an album.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, that is interesting. But yeah, that That's Abracadabra and a lot of other side chats that I like. They're going to stay in, I hope, to Brandon who edits this. And that'll do it for this week, Troy. And for your stint here on the Summer of 82 at 40, thank you so much for hopping on for all these music video episodes. Bring your expertise. I always love talking about with you because the conversations are great. Even if they're on topic, off topic, they're still interesting in the wheelhouse of nostalgic and music, which is the Summer of 82 at 40, what it is. So before we head on out, let people know where they can keep up with you.
The conversational derailing is part of my roguish charm. You can find me at Saturday Evening Post, SaturdayEveningPost.com, and also at Troy Brownfield on Twitter, and then the various Troy Brownfield Sparkshooter pages on the Facebook, as my mother would say. So thank you, Brandon.
No problem. And I'm on Twitter and Instagram at BrandonPorkyUHD. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll be back for, I believe, the final week of the Summer of 82 at 40. That is.
It's the final countdown.
It is. And we got 2 bunk movies to talk about that's like, ugh. But, folks, there's a Patreon account. I don't know where it's headed at. This is April, as Troy and I are talking. I had a goal that if you get that first goal, then it won't end next week. Scott and I would return to finish out with Porky's and the Sword and the Sorcerer. So hopefully you hit that goal and we're going to record that episode, but I don't know at this time. So appreciate that, but it might be the end of it next week. So come back Monday, more fun. Till then, stay focused.
The Summer of 82 at 40.
Thank you for listening. The Brandon Peters Show is a Creative Zombie Studios production. Produced by Brad Shoemaker and Brandon Peters. Written and edited by Brandon Peters. Announcer vocals by Jessica Alsman. Theme song by Metavari. Web design and show art by Brad Shoemaker with Brandon Peters. All music and clips featured in the episode are property of their respective studios, and no infringement is intended. The Summer of 82 at 40 and News of the Moment themes by Pres Maxson. Additional information on this and other episodes at thebrandonpetershow.com. For any inquiries, press opportunities, or sponsorship, contact mail at thebrandonpetershow.com. The show is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere podcasts are found.